muted. Hey, is that a little better? Can you actually hear me now? Goodness gracious, it's amazing how much better things work when I actually turn on my microphone. Hello everyone and welcome to this afternoon's stream. We're doing something a little bit different this time. Having a bit of a low-key afternoon, crafting some arrows. Archery has actually been a passion of mine for quite some time. I've been going to the range, God, since high school at this point, so I'm definitely easily within a decade of doing it. Off and on for the last several years. It used to be a pastime that a couple of friends of mine would just do on the regular, and one of the things that we eventually ended up getting towards doing was crafting our own arrows, just because, one, it's kind of fun to be able to make something yourself, but also, it's nice to be able to customize it to your own look, your own aesthetic, and make sure that you have things cut to your own custom length. For example, for me, I know that I am one of those people who incredibly overdraws when I do archery, so my arrows tend to need to be a little bit on the longer side, so as opposed to getting them cut off at the length that they would normally get used. But that's essentially the gist of it. I've already done some of the work because it just was not conducive to streaming. Case in point, I did already pre-stain all of the doweling for my arrows, so that is already done. However, I did put together a way overproduced little video for you all to get an idea of the process of what I went through there. So why don't I go ahead and get things started with that, and then we'll get to the actual crafting portion of this event. So have a little fun with this one with some crafting time. Yes, I know I'm a dork, but you know what? I had to have some fun with it, and I figured that, as much as y'all seem to really enjoy watching paint dry, watching me do all of my miniature crafting and such like that, spending a couple hours watching stain dry probably didn't seem like the most invigorating activity, so I figured we'd go ahead and just skip right on past that part. But what we got here, I have my doweling for my arrows. Everything's already been cut to the length that I tend to leave it at. And thank you very much, Diane. Pleasure to have you here. I did actually, apparently the capture on the video didn't actually get the entire thing. I had a little intro bit that just went on a black screen for some reason, but still, in either case, glad you enjoyed that. But my dowling's already been all cut to length. I've already stained everything. I have already done the protective coat on it, and I've already made all of my shavings so that I can put my tips and my nocks and everything onto the arrows. I do have a tool for that I normally use. It basically just ends up operating like a giant pencil sharpener, but it has the two different lengths so that you have the one end for the nock and you have the other end. Let's see if I can do this here without knocking over any of my equipment. And you have the other end here for the tip. And essentially, that's what we're going to be doing here now. I have my glue, I have my tips and everything so that we can get all that together in here. I end up typically for most of my arrows using Gorilla Glue. Let's see if I can get it up on screen right here. I swear by this stuff. It seems to be the best thing that we've been able to use so far. Main thing about it though is that it is water activated, so we got to get a little bit of water onto these arrows before the glue will actually set into place and get everything locked down. So we'll go ahead and let's go ahead and start with our nocks first, because I need to be able to get those in before I can start working on my fletching. Now, for those of you who don't know, this is a fletching tool. This is what I'm going to be using a little bit later to get all of my fletching onto the arrows. Just a handy little contraption. It has everything all pre-aligned. It has a clip to be able to hold the fletching in place. Magnet holds it on, and this little wheel here has clicking positions to pre-register exactly where you want all of the fletching for your arrows to be. So you'll get a demo of what that's going to look like a little bit later, but I need to first of all get some nocks onto these arrows. So Let's get this guy out of the way for the time being. And by the way, this is my first time ever doing something like this live. I've done this for several years just as sort of like, you know, an afternoon hobby that I would do whenever I finally run out of arrows. Actually, it's funny. I was having a conversation with a couple of folks not that long ago, basically talking about the fact that arrows are kind of a funny thing because especially when you craft your own, it becomes this whole thing where you put so much time and dedication into it, and it's like, oh, they're so pretty, I love them, they're wonderful, they're gonna last me forever. They're not. Arrows are a consumable, and at the end of the day, even as pretty and as careful as you are taking care of them, I guarantee you day one out on the range, you're either going to break or lose one or two of them, at the very least, if you're lucky. But that's just sort of the way it goes. But it's part of the fun, it's part of the process, and when that happens, it just means that you have an excuse to make more. So, without any further ado on that, let's go ahead and get these guys going. Now, I have everything all pre-aligned here onto my knock sides, and forgive me if I get some mic bumps and stuff like that in here. I've said I've not done this in a streaming format before, so I'm still getting used to figuring out my spacing on everything. So if I end up getting an occasional mic bump here and there, that is why. Now for my knocks, I got these nice clear blue knocks, and it's funny, I've actually been using the exact same colors for my knocks and my fletching pretty much since we've started. Hey Cody, welcome, 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 and hey April as well, welcome to our little low-key afternoon here. But anyways, as I was saying, the yeah, Roscoe needs to take notes. Good times. Yes, I've been an archer pretty much since high school, as I was mentioning at the beginning of the stream. This has been a long time hobby of mine. Arrow making itself, I started near the beginning of the end. I started doing archery in high school. I started making my own arrows near the end of high school. So definitely easily for about a decade now. But I've been using the same colors ever since. So for our knocks, we have these nice pretty clear blues. For our fletching, we have a blend between some whites and some orange and black flocked arrows, flocked fletching, which again are the same colors that we've used, that I've used since the beginning. My buddies and I who have gone to the archery range pretty much at that one point in time essentially designated that, you know what, these are our colors, so that whenever we would get all of our supplies, it always ends up being much more affordable when you can buy them in bulk, so that way you can just have a large amount so that when you do eventually end up losing or breaking arrows, it's a lot more efficient to be able to just have a whole bunch of leftover supplies, buying them in bulk rather than trying to go, oh, I'll just get 12 at a time. But anyways, I've been blathering on for a while here. Let's go ahead and actually get some crafting going, since that's what y'all are here to see. First things first, we're going to go ahead and pop these guys open. And something that I will definitely say to have of note, there they are. Always make sure that you have a blade or at least scissors nearby, because otherwise you can wind up in an embarrassing situation where you are totally unprepared for the stream that you're already late for. So, go ahead and pop these guys open here. And we're gonna go ahead and let's see if I have enough desk room to be able to do this. I do. I'm gonna throw some paper towels under here just so these guys have somewhere to dry, because glue and table, not so good. Don't want to play that game, at least not at the moment. Hang on. Necessary water break. Did Eddie just become an arcane archer? Man, if only. If that were the case, I might actually make my shots more often, and then I wouldn't have to keep on making new arrows. Alright. So, simple little knock, and because I haven't put any of my fletching on yet, I don't have to worry about the angle or anything. That'll all get set when I finally start putting my actual fletching on. So, we're going to go ahead and take our tip here, get just a little bit of water on that, and we'll get our Gorilla Glue. I spy a Zerg coaster. That you do. Back from my OG days, I was a huge StarCraft fan back in the day, and even for StarCraft 2, I was really very adamant about it for quite a long time. Still holds a special place in my heart, and I will always say live for the Swarm. All about them Zerg. My bottle's a little dry here, so hopefully I can still get some stuff out. There we go. It's a little goopy goop. Some of that excess here. What was your preference there, Diane? Are you also a StarCraft fan? Did you used to play back in the day? Can never get into the actual game. My husband plays, but I love watching it. Went to MLG about 5 years ago, and I think they were in Orlando. Nice. Yeah, it's. I can definitely understand that it is an incredibly stressful game to play, bar none. It's always kind of the running joke. When I started playing MOBAs, there was always this running joke how, when you go to a, not, yes, when you go to a MOBA and suddenly it's like, oh, I'm only having to control one character. And then, someone else who comes from a StarCraft background is like, wow, I see all those 5 characters with all these special heroic abilities and all that. How do you control all of them at once? But no, I still have a special place in my heart for StarCraft. I haven't played in a hot minute just because, the game hasn't gotten as much love over the last several years, mostly just because of the fact that, well, if I'm being perfectly honest, Blizzard's kind of gone downhill a little bit. But I still hold a special place in my heart for that game. My brothers and I grew up playing that game. It was actually one of our bonding points. It was kind of funny. When they were younger, my brothers always, lamented the fact that I would beat them at the game every single time. But then when StarCraft 2 came out several years later, and, they were the young whippersnappers, and I was, the crotchety old man in his 20s, and they were able to completely kick my butt every single time, and that was apparently like their proudest moment. So excited to open packages tonight. True story, April. This thing is just sitting here, calling to me. I'm so anxiously awaiting what that's going to be. Did you ever play the Vikings on HOTS? That was baffling on to me how people play. Yes, I've played them a couple of times. I never was good at them. Which, is funny considering all the stuff I was saying a moment ago about coming from a real-time strategy background and all of that. But yeah, no, their play style did not make sense to me. I mean, I sort of understood it. Basically, their main job is, lane holding and basically just experience absorption by being in 3 lanes at the same time constantly. But in terms of how to best utilize them outside of that, I had no clue. I felt like whenever I played with the Vikings, I did terribly. They just were not my bag. Yeah, old man in my 20s. Well, I mean, comparatively speaking, so here's the thing. There's definitely seems to be this thing, especially in esports, where it seems like, when you're younger, you tend to have, the faster reflexes, you tend to be able to adapt a lot quicker and all that. And it just seems like there's this cap at a certain point where, once you get past a certain threshold, it's like, it's funny, no other sporting industry outside of like esports is like, oh, they're so old at 24. You know, even in, things like hockey and stuff like that, those high pace, more aggressive sports, it's, there's still people playing in their 40s and stuff like that, but that's, uncommon if not unheard of in the esports arena these days, at least from what I've seen. Unless, I mean, someone prove me wrong on that. If there's some 40-year-old esports folks out there, I would love to check them out. I don't know if that's just a consequence of the fact that it's a fairly new industry or what, but just kind of seems what it is. Gymnastics? All right, all right. But for esports, though, do you know of any esports that have people that are still hanging on up there? Actually, it's funny that you mentioned gymnastics. I actually, back in the days, so for a little while, I actually used to work for our local branch of PBS, which was KQED. And back in those days, we did an interview at one point with uh, a professional ballerina with who actually lived here in San Jose and worked for Ballet San Jose, and she was still actively doing shows. And I want to say that she was in like her late 50s, early 60s, and she looked good. And she still had like the nimbleness and the ability to perform and everything, which was unheard of for that industry. Like it's completely unheard of because for most ballerinas, it's like, you know, their career is done by the time they reach their 30s. So it was pretty impressive and pretty astounding that she was able to keep going that long. Man, I'd love to play in any game competitively. Yeah, you know, it's kind of funny. I did actually try doing a HOTS tournament at one point just for giggles. Back when I was, you know, feeling confident and feeling like, you know, I could do this. This is good, and you know, it was a fun experience. I definitely don't regret doing it, but I got my butt handed to me. This was probably about, I want to say, oh, I don't know, like 3, 4 years ago, something like that. Like, it was a really fun experience. I don't regret it, but oh my god, I could not believe the whooping me and my team got. Yeah, grannies for the win. Actually, it's even along those same lines. Back when I was taking jazz and tap on a more regular basis, I actually had a teacher. She is now since retired, but her name was Maurice Stinnett. Amazing, amazing dancer. She even had like, you know, a replaced hip and everything. And I think by the time that she retired, she was in her 70s and she could dance everyone that she was teaching under the floor. It was amazing. Both tap and jazz, you name it, she was incredible. There was always kind of this running joke that in her old age, she will probably forget more about dance than most of her students will ever learn. I mean, there are some folks out there that just they got it, and it's amazing. It's a little too quiet here. I feel like I need to get some music going while we're waiting for glue to dry. I'm going a little heavy on the glue here. I should probably back it up just a little bit. I'm wiping off way more excess than I really should be at this point. But I like to be thorough, just because the alternative is that I wind up with a whole bunch of arrows with no knocks on them. But I spent about 2 hours doing the staining on these yesterday. And the stain, this I happen to have this stain excess. I've never done this color before, so I'm kind of curious how this is gonna pop and turn out with these arrows. Uh, but the stain actually took a little bit longer to dry than I was anticipating. And I'm not sure if that's just because these particular shafts had like a already had a protective seal on it of some sort or what, but it was kind of interesting. Might need to do a little bit of light sanding on some of these. I'm noticing a couple of imperfections here and there. Equestrian sports have a high number of older riders. You know, I could sort of see that. Plus, I imagine, you know, once you're an equestrian for life. What kind of stain? This is a Varathane stain. The color I ended up going with was a carbon gray. It was one of the colors. So back in the think it was actually almost a year ago now. It was last summer. Um, I had a project for my wife and I, which was I built our bed frame. Went ahead and, made the measurements I needed for everything, went to Home Depot, got the lumber and everything, and built a bed frame from scratch because we had gotten a brand new mattress. We didn't have a queen size frame. So I was like, you know what? This seems like a fun project. I'm going to make a bed frame. So made the bed frame, but the main thing in making the bed frame, as with almost every sort of project, is trying to figure out what kind of color do I want. And my wife decided that the for the aesthetic that we were going for, kind of a gray of some sort, like a weathered gray of some sort, would be a good look for it. But weathered gray in and of itself doesn't really say much, so we had to do a little bit of palette testing and color testing and stuff like that. And this was one of the ones that we tried, which ended up being a little too dark for what we were going for. So I ended up having this, bucket of stain that wasn't being used for anything. And I thought, you know what? I wonder how my orange and everything is going to look on this. So thought I'd try it out. Who gave him arrows? You can blame the other Chris for that, actually. He's the one who's been, enabling me for this endeavor for the last, decade almost. So, if anything, regardless of which one it is, it's Chris's fault. Can actually blame that guy for a lot of the hobbies I've gotten into. He's definitely been an accelerant in me pursuing a whole bunch of random and weird interests. How you doing, Mr. Solo? What time did you finally end up getting to bed last night? I know the kids were keeping you up. Is Eclipse gonna be a bowed rogue? That's a great question. I haven't decided yet. As of yet, he's been, primarily melee, but I haven't had a chance to figure out what I actually want to do with him in terms of if I'm gonna give him a ranged weapon or whatnot. Who knows? Maybe. I feel like he's definitely mostly an up close and personal type, but you know, if you can get those cat claws around a bow, that could be kind of cool. Late, that figures. Just finished the long recap for Realms. Very nice, very nice. You missed the conversation earlier, but there's a few of us who are just dancing in anticipation, trying to figure out what's in the box. What's in the box, Solo? What's in the box? There's a lot of excitement going around for that. Let's see. No, I didn't really dip you very well. Let's try that again. Give you another dip. Baranor was a ranged rogue. I'm telling you, man, get a hook hand, and then you can fabricate, a quick release onto the hook, and there you're an archer again. My cat has been sleeping on the box. Wonderful. Boxes are a cat's favorite sleeping place, aren't they not? That's actually apparently been a tested trick to be able to, if you have an issue with your cat constantly pining for attention and wanting to sleep on your keyboard, apparently the trick is to put a box next to the keyboard. When chosen, the cat will almost always choose the box. I haven't tested this theory because I don't currently have a cat, but I would definitely have done so back in the days when I did have one. It sounds like a sound theory. What? That's brilliant. That does not work for Penny. When she wants attention, she will get it, and that is frequent. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the thing. You know, cats are this bizarre blend of low maintenance, high maintenance. It's like, when they don't want attention, they're just like, no, I'm doing my own thing. Go away, leave me alone. But then when they want attention, they want it now. And if you don't give it to them now, they will make you give it to them. I can't wait to have a cat again. I miss having a cat. Speaking of which, I need to pick out my Eclipse shirt for the day. Or I should say my cat shirt for the day. On that note, I'm probably going to have to start collecting more cat shirts. I have quite a few as it is, but if I'm going to do a cat shirt every Wednesday, I'm going to have to start adding to my collection, or I'm going to run out before I have to start doing repeats again. You and Lindsay are making me want to pick up archery. I'm telling you, it's a fun sport, though it is a rabbit hole, especially if you start doing what I do and make your own arrows. I mean, it's nice in the sense that, it's kind of once you've made your investment, generally you're done. It's not like you have to keep on spending money per se, unless you keep on breaking or losing arrows, which basically the solution to that is just get better. But no, it's a fun sport, and I will tell you, it is a workout. You end up using all kinds of muscles you don't think about. But I love it. I swear by it. Done some archery back when I was more active at the Ren fairs. Oh yeah. It's funny. I mean, I haven't been to a lot of Ren fairs. I've been to a few, but for the Ren fairs that I have been to, I don't think once have I done archery at a Ren fair, which is kind of funny. I've done axe throwing, which that's also another fun one. I freaking love axe throwing. Actually, funny thing about that, my wife has been looking for a hobby for a while, and she she's been trying a couple of different things and stuff like that. I did try doing archery with her, and she thought it was okay. It didn't quite vibe with her, but we went to go visit my brothers in Austin, and went to a place called Urban Axes, where we did axe throwing. I had been there once before, but this was her first time trying it, and she loved it. I think that I can't remember the last time I've seen her so giddy over doing something. And to boot, when we were there, what they do is they run you through the process. They give you, the safety speech and all that, but then run you through training on how to do it. But then afterwards, they set up a impromptu tournament, just kind of like, like a round robin style and stuff like that. And once we all went through and got to the end, guess who won? My wife. It was amazing. You do axe throwing? Awesome. Yeah, it's so much fun. Cody was an axe throwing instructor for a while. That's awesome. Good for him. Maybe he can give me some pointers sometime. I mean, I don't think I'm bad. I'm just, especially when I'm out of practice and I don't do it that often, of course, I'm going to go a little downhill, but still, pointers are always good. Pointers are good. All right. Last tip here, or last knock, I should say. Tips are later. I'm going to do all the fletching first before we start getting to tips. Just because I think that's probably the more interesting part here. Tips are pretty much the same. It's basically just, a little bit of glue, a little bit of water. Used to run a knife throwing booth. Awesome. That sounds like fun too. That's something else I want to try at some point in time. My wifey has that Viking blood. It's funny. So for years, she swore that she was pretty much just 50-50 Mexican, Native, and Native American. However, there have been suggestions at some point in time that she may have some Irish traces in there, and honestly, I believe what you're saying too. I think that somewhere in there is some Viking blood, because I swear there's some stuff that's just like, okay, all right, all right. But yeah, she freaking loved it. All right, arrows are knocked. We're gonna go ahead and give that just a second. I'm going to step away from the keyboard for just a second. I will be right back, and then we will get to, hopefully, if these things haven't dried by the time I return, then I'll probably end up just switching over to doing the tips first and then doing the fletching while they dry, but we'll see where that ends up going. But I need to grab more paper towels because apparently I ran out, so I'll step away for just 1 second and I'll be right back. All right, and I did get so distracted by conversation earlier, which, you know, don't get me wrong, y'all are wonderful. I totally forgot to put on some music, so let's go ahead and find some music to put on, because it is way too quiet. Go ahead and pull up my pretzel that I used before when we were doing our painting. Let's see what they've got on the agenda here. And of course, we're doing it live, which means that they're going to make me do dual authentication and all that good stuff. I swear I was prepared for today. I didn't do all this completely, you know, at the last minute trying to pull everything together. This is a jam-packed week, folks. So much stuff going on between Mythical Melee and all the Realms stuff and just everything. It's just like, there's so much going on this week. All right, let's see. I think last time when we did this, we did like let's try like epic. I think I liked the epic playlist we had going on here, so let's try that. Here we are, epic playlist. We'll try this. And let's bring up some music. So excited to watch me play Diane. Oh, that's right. Wait, is Diane in the same match as me? I'm trying to remember now. Let's get that back to a talking level. Too much music. Now we're good. Yeah, I was gonna say, I don't recall Diane and I being in the same match. I thought that, she was in, round 4. Yeah, I was gonna say, Diane's in group 4, I'm in 5. I would have known if Diane was in my group. That was the whole thing that I've been worried about this entire time, is that I'm surrounded by unknowns. I mean, yeah, I know Joey, so I've seen him play before, and I might be able to have an inkling as to what to expect with him, but with, I have Ronan, the great mystery unknown in our group, so, you know, that's terrifying. And of course, you know, everyone else is all folks that are relatively new to the network, so I have no idea what to expect from any of them. I'm a little terrified, I won't lie. It's a Saturday for Diane, solo Friday. Yep, true story. Would you like the recap? I haven't had a chance to see the recap yet. What'd you do, Solo? What sort of trouble you getting Diane into here? Yeah, I definitely went a little glue heavy here, so let's clean some of this mess up here. Little bit too much of the glue. Felt super scared going up against DM veterans. Oh, I can't even imagine. For sure. It's long, but it nicely brings us all together. Told by a very familiar little R2 friend of her. Oh. Okay, now I'm gonna have to look this up. Alright, so these tips are taking a little longer than I was hoping for to dry here. So we're gonna go ahead and do the tips first, and then we'll figure out fletching after that, since hopefully by then our actual knocks will have had a chance to... they're pretty locked in place right now. Alright, maybe we can do that. Either way, it's probably a wiser choice for us to do the tips first, just so that we can get that done, get that out of the way, let them dry, and then we can manhandle these all we want to get some fletching on them. So first things first, let's go ahead and do a little 180 here. I'm so hyped for tonight. I'm really curious to see what's gonna happen, especially with where we left things last time. And on that note, Diane, if I can handle getting kidnapped by a spider, I think you can have a snake bestie. Spider snakes? Oh, why? Isn't that just a face hugger? Isn't that just a face hugger at that point? Alright, I got some tips. And basically at this point, just rinse and repeat. Second verse, same as the first. Or a centipede. Ew, those are pretty gross too. They don't quite trigger me the same way spiders do. I don't know what it is. I think it's something about just the additional appendages and the way that the legs move. It's like even just if you see a picture of a still spider, the still spider is like not as bad. It's just kind of like, okay, it's a spider, ew, but whatever. But it's seeing that movement that just for some reason, just triggers me. Freaks you out because they have no legs. You know, it's funny that you say that. Do you watch Bob's Burgers at all? Because Gene Belcher has a song that discusses that very topic. I'm not afraid of ghosts. I'm not afraid of sharks. I'm just afraid of snakes. They really freak me out. Where are their arms and legs? It's not okay. Tarantulas are even worse. Because then it's a big spider. It's funny, you know, Solo was talking to me the other day about frickin', you know, camel spiders over in the Middle East, and it's like, no, thank you. If the spiders are big enough that you have to shoot them, they're too big. They are fuzzy. I acknowledge this, but it's the exact same problem. You know, it's funny. My wife was, you know, pseudo-teasing, pseudo-serious about the notion of us getting like a pet jumping spider or something like that. And I told her, no. He's like, it'll stay in the cage. I'm like, yeah, except for eventually when it doesn't and it gets out. And I'm sorry, if it gets out of the cage and it jumps on me, if I see a spider on me, I'm not going to differentiate between, oh, this is our friend spider versus, oh my god, there's a spider on me. And I can't guarantee the safety of that spider. Snake spider slayed ya. Nice. I'm telling you, that's a facehugger. I mean, I wouldn't mind a pet snake. But the main reason why my wife doesn't want a pet snake is because she actually used to have one. She had a corn snake that she kept for many years, but she doesn't like the idea of keeping one, mostly because of the fact that feeding them is a little bit difficult for her, especially because, her snake really preferred the live prey, and hearing the squeals that would ensue were apparently a bit much for her. We were camping the past weekend. Our campsite was full of spiders, daddy longlegs. Ugh, gross. Yeah, I have a video of my 5-foot ball python eating. Oh man, yeah. I mean, I agree. It's, a little difficult to watch, but at the same time, I also find a strange degree of fascination just watching the way they just elongate their jaws and stuff like that, and I think it's kind of interesting. But I think I don't think it's less, I think it's less for her the eating part. I think it's more the, the suffocating part. Which, again, I understand. It's fascinating until you hear the pop. Yeah, I can imagine. The pop would probably be a little gnarly. My brother-in-law had like 10 plus snakes in a freezer full of food. Oh, criminy. Yeah, but see, those are the frozen ones, and that's the thing, is that some snakes seem to have no problem with the frozen ones, especially when they're younger, but some snakes just really prefer the live prey. And that's the hard part. Now, if they're already frozen, no big deal, but... He gets live food too, okay. Looks like I missed a spot on that stain job. Oh well. But it's fine. I'm leaving a couple of imperfections on this stain job because, one, again, my previous spiel about the fact that arrows are consumables, but also, I honestly think it kind of gives it kind of an interesting look. I used to have a pet rat, so it makes me sad. That's understandable. But, I mean, mice and rats aren't quite the same, but yeah. But I can imagine that. Actually, I never had a pet rat myself, but I remember back in elementary school we used to have a pet rat, and I remember my stepmom kind of freaking out when I had to bring it home for the weekend. Rats are great though. A lot friendlier than gerbils. Gerbils get a good reputation that they really, or not gerbils, hamsters. Hamsters get a good reputation that they really don't deserve. They're mean little things. These carbon fiber? No, these are all wood. I can pull up the stats for them momentarily, but they're rated for up to a, I think it's up to a 55 pound bow, which is below the threshold of what mine is. I fire a recurve. But they do have that nice carbon look because I did use a carbon gray stain on them. We actually now have a pet rat that my kids didn't want to feed the snake. Yeah, I remember you saying that story. Which is, you know, simultaneously funny and sad. But, you know, kind of cute. It's like, alright, we'll keep it this time. You have a 60-pound compo. Takes more talent to shoot recurve. You know, that's actually one of the things that I've really liked about recurve. I mean, don't get me wrong, I have no problem with compound bows, but I love the challenge associated with a recurve because you don't have any additional assistance that you get from the compound bow. Everything that you pull is all you. And in terms of trying to compensate for things and all that, I mean, with the compound, you get enough poundage on that thing, it'll fly true almost anywhere you go. But with the recurve, you have to make a lot more calculations trying to figure out exactly where it's going to land. And that is the part of the archery process that I really enjoy. For me, it's more about honing in and practicing technique rather than just about, you know, the number of bullseyes I can hit. Don't get me wrong, the bullseyes are nice. I love hitting bullseyes, but those are not necessarily the sole focus. My roommate actually just recently got himself a compound bow. He's starting to get into archery himself. I forget what the poundage on his is though. I want to say it's a 60. I don't quite remember. But I think my bow is it's a 40-pound recurve, although technically I overdraw like crazy, so I don't remember what the exact calculation is. I want to say it's like extra pound for every 2 inches of draw, so theoretically speaking, I probably, even though it's a 40-pound bow, I probably draw it back at, you know, closer to 42, 44 pounds. But I love my bow. Nice, I think it's a bear? Is the brand? No. It's a cougar. But I think bear is the brand, cougar is the model. I could pull it down a little bit later and show y'all if you want. But I love my bow. This is the third bow I've ever owned, but the first, like, I used to have takedown bows before, which are the ones that they collapse down into a smaller compact shapes for easier storage, but this is the first, you know, full length bow that I've owned. And I love it. Also, the nice thing about recurve bows is that as long as you take good care of them, the older the bow is, at least in my experience, the better it shoots. Because as the wood starts to soften up and everything, it starts giving a smoother release, it starts behaving slightly differently. At least that's been my experience. I felt like all the older recurve bows that I have fired have started firing better. Yeah, it's like an anvil. The more it gets used, the better it gets. Yeah, that checks out. And without all the additional complex mechanics that you get with the compound bow, it's literally, you know, just it's a piece of wood. Unless you do what my roommate and I did when we were feeling, you know, experimental and made a bow out of PVC pipe. That was a fun project. Actually, now that I mention it, I think that on my Discount Bard Instagram profile, I think I do actually have a photo of me holding my bow at one point. Probably one of the first photos I posted. It was way before I started actually using my profile more frequently. I don't know if I got enough glue in that. That's nowhere near enough glue. More glue! What about you, Solo? Any archery for you? Oh god, that was way more glue than I wanted. I have a feeling I might have overfilled this one. We'll see. Oh, yeah. Way more glue than I wanted. Used to a long time ago. Compound though. Then I stopped for a bit. I was a blacksmith apprentice for a bit. Then I had kids in no time. Yeah, funny how that happens. You were a blacksmith apprentice? Like legit? That's pretty cool. The same friend Chris did a little stint with the Ironworkers Union for a brief moment in time when he was trying to figure out, you know, career paths and stuff that he wanted to do, but the big thing was apparently the main path for that ended up having to do with either you were going to be up in heights or you're going to be dealing with rebar, which neither of those sounded like a fun plan for him. There's a blacksmith out here I want to connect with. Awesome. Now I'm kind of curious because I've heard some mixed things about this. Specifically a what is it? There was like two different terms or something like that. It's like a blacksmith versus a caster or something like that. It's from what I understand, the difference being essentially you know, pouring into a mold and forging that way versus hammering something together. There's a difference in terms for that or something like that. I'm flubbing this up terribly, but I swear there was a difference in that. So I think if I recall correctly, yeah, I'm blanking on the name too, but the difference is that blacksmith means that you hammer it into shape as opposed to molding it into shape, right? I've run out of tips. I need to grab more tips. Like I need 3 more tips. By some strange circumstance, I had enough knocks, but not enough tips. But yeah, that was just the main thing, is I remember there was a very different technical term between the two of them. Right. Almost done with this part, and then we can get to the fletching, which is the simultaneously tedious but also slightly more interesting part. All right, and last tip. Alrighty. Well, that's been sorted out. Let's do a little reversal here. I don't know how I managed to keep this desk clean with all this crafting stuff I do on here. Okay. Now that we've got that all situated, ooh, we got some nice glue fingers. That's always fun. All right, so let's bring out our rig. So for those of you who weren't tuning in earlier when I was explaining what this is a fletching rig. Essentially the gist of it is it has a clip and it has this mounting station here that has a place to hold the arrow in place and a magnet for the clip, and this thing clicks to a position so that you can perfectly place your fletching every single time. So we're going to grab our fletching and then we'll start putting everything into place here as I spill water everywhere like the champion that I am. All right. So let's go ahead and grab our first target, arrow. All right, and that's going to be our knock arrow, it looks like. So, go ahead and grab our fletching. Now for me, what I'm doing for my arrows, we have, for the group that I shoot with, we do the white fletching in bulk, just because it's, again, as per usual, a lot of it's cost effectiveness and all that, but we get a whole bunch of the white fletching in bulk so that we can all share the same, and then we each get our own signature color for our index fletching so that we can all tell them apart. And we have all kept the same colors basically since we started shooting together. So mine is orange and black flocked. So this will be my index feather. Go ahead and put that in place here. Line it up with our little mark. That it's the same every single time. And then we use this stuff here, which is fletching tape. It's essentially a double-sided sticky tape that's designed specifically to hold fletching in place. Comes off in this little strip here. So we'll go ahead and run this along arrow, not the arrow, the fletching. Excuse me while I totally flub up all of my terminology. If Chris were here right now, he would be tearing me a new one. Now this is also kind of an interesting thing about making your own arrows. This particular index fletching, I can tell because there's still a little bit of leftover tape on it, is reused. It was recycled from an old arrow that likely either broke or, yeah, it was probably from an arrow that broke. So we were able to save the fletching off of it and then be able to reuse it for the next set of arrows. All right, so we got our little tape here. Just still snip that off. So now we have fletching with tape. Peel the... Make sure that's all on there nice and good before we do anything else. Peel the backing off. Which is hard if you don't have nails. There we go. And then it is very thin tape. But once you're done, you now have a perfectly placed piece of fletching. And then kind of give it a little press down here, make sure everything's all nice and secure, but there you have it. And now we just rinse and repeat this process until we have it on all sides. And the nice thing about this device here is that it has a click mechanism in it to be able to let you know exactly when you're at the place you want to be for the next piece of fletching. So, clicked. That means we're at the next spot. So now we can start doing the rest of our non-index fletching. Scissors at. It's always the trouble. Getting that backing off is the hard part, especially if you don't have nails. God, that freaking song has been stuck in my head all day now. Which song? Save Eddie's song. Ah, yes, yes, yes. That was so funny. That was such a hilarious thing to wake up to this morning. All of a sudden just look on Instagram and oh, there it is. Save Eclipse. Right. Now this is of course not the only way that you can do your arrows or do your fletching. My one of my buddies who does this on a fairly regular basis also has experimented with, you know, weaving your own fletching and stuff like that, but this is pretty much the easiest way that I have found to do it, and it's been pretty reliable. I am not quite fancy enough to the point of being able to do my own. Still didn't finish Smallville. Shame, I'll watch it again. LOL if we ever find the time. Yeah, you know, there's no time for Smallville. You got too much D&D going on. Especially this week. I was amazed when you were telling me that you got freaking a whole week of D&D. That's insanity. Although I'm one to talk, it's kind of funny. Ever since I have started with Fable 42, I have been both consuming and participating in more D&D content than I have, for all intents and purposes, for the last, ever for my life. Like, it used to be like, okay, maybe, once or twice, a year or something like that, I might join folks for a one-off, for a one-shot. There were some points in time where, maybe we had a consistent campaign going, but then it would taper off after people couldn't get their schedules together for a few months and stuff like that. And then suddenly, Fable 42, and boom, I'm in, 3 active campaigns at the exact same time. Like, I've never done that before. For Ukador-Con, I will have D&D for 6 days straight. Woof, yeah. And yes, thank you, Mr. Solo. You helped me to discover a side of myself I didn't realize existed. Alright, I'm just doing a quick little rundown here to smooth this out a little bit, but we have a fully fledged arrow. That has way too much glue on the tip. What is this? I might have to do a little bit of light sanding on this a little later, just because the glue is a little overwhelming at the moment. But we have an arrow. So now let's just do this a few more times. Pretty DM is coming up on my level. Oh, yep. Diane's just going wild with those campaigns for sure. Just finished the cave, by the way. Ooh. I am both excited and terrified to see what that's going to look like. Alright. So, rinse and repeat. Second verse, same as the third. But not for real though. It's definitely been a long haul trying to wait until this Wednesday. Such a cliffhanger to end on from last time. Plus, I'm really excited to get some more time with these amazing new folks we got on the channel. See, we're running into that exact issue I mentioned before. Fingernails. Fingernails! There we go. It's sticking on there pretty good. Stay. Don't you go anywhere. Alright. And come on. There we go. Ah, kill to have some adequate cuticles. There we are. Stay there. I know the camera placement isn't ideal. This is kind of a tough thing to try to get on camera per se. If y'all are having trouble seeing or want to get a better idea of what it is that I'm doing, please be sure to let me know. We've kind of reached the point in the process where it's sort of automated. I just kind of keep on going with the flow and just doing what I'm doing. Go. And that's number 2. I have to do a video at some point of sending these babies flying next time I make it out to the range. Of course, it's been a minute. I think it's been, what, 7, 8 months since the last time I've been to the range? I should fix this. I know Lindsay's been getting out quite a bit. We've been seeing some of those photos. And I have a couple other friends who've been making it out to the range every now and then. Seems like a good social distance activity. Can you imagine trying to do this primitively? Oh man. Well, I mean, I imagine for that it would be a lot more, you know, there'd be a lot more thread involved, there would be a lot more feathers involved and such like that. But yeah, no, for sure. Like, trying to do the exact math of like, all right, I need to make sure it is exactly here. Yes, yes. But you know, it's funny because a lot of these crafts, while the tools may have evolved slightly in terms of mechanics over time, the principles are remaining relatively the same. It's kind of one of those things where, like, you know, once you've found the perfect way to do something, it's like, why change it? Like, imagining how long it would take, but suppose if it was your life out in the forest and your way of life, you would get super fast about it. Oh yeah, for sure. And that's also one of the reasons why I'm so slow right now. Like, when I was doing this a lot more often, I'd be able to do it a lot faster, but it's also been a hot minute since the last time I've done this. But this is exactly what I meant about this part being, you know, definitely one of the more interesting parts, but it is absolutely tedious. Especially with this tape, just trying to get this backing peeled off when you don't have nails. It's one of the reasons why I almost do like the idea of trying to do my own fletching at some point, just trying to see if I could figure out how to do, like, you know, the tie down method and all that. Just because, you know, it's a way that I can get away from tape. But the tape does make things a lot easier. As much of a pain in the ass as it is to peel it, it makes the whole process of securing it way simpler. Now I'm sort of starting to get a flow here. This process is starting to go a little quicker. Definitely gonna have to wash the glue off my hands by the time I'm done with this. I way overdid it on that glue. But, you know, at the same time, better too much than too little, because at least I can rest assured now that these tips and these knocks aren't going anywhere. Oops. Too far, too far. Want you all the way in. Just most of the way. Yeah, I've been long overdue to do this. I've had these shafts basically just kind of sitting in here for months. They've just been meaning to do this, and it's just kind of one of those where, especially once Shelter in Place, took place, it was like one of those where, like, there's a part of me that thought, I should do it, but then the other part that was like, but you're not really gonna go to the range anytime soon, and yada yada, blah blah blah, but nice to be able to have y'all here, because now you're holding me accountable. You're making me do it. So, if nothing else, thank you folks for forcing me into a position to do the things that I set out to do. Does water come from? Oh, it's probably when I spilled earlier. Bad water. Were you just talking to me, Discount Bard? Sorry, Zip to Play. Well, nope, not you specifically. Just saying a big thank you to the folks at home for forcing me to be accountable and do the things that I set out to do. Like when I leave, my arrows sitting in the office for 8 months, not making them. And then decide that, you know what, I'm gonna stream this. And then it's like, okay, now it's actually gonna get done. Yeah, for sure. Because there's definitely nothing more incentivizing than a live audience. Building the first full dungeon for Realms? Dude, why the hell are you apologizing for that? If anything, well, I'd say I'd love to see pics, but that would probably be spoilers, so I'll just look forward to seeing it tonight. I'm definitely such a blend between nervous and excited for tonight. My brain just cannot decide between the two of them. Which is it? Are you nervous or are you excited? Oh, I don't know. A little bit of both? Well, you can't be both. Pick one or the other. Well, I don't know, but it's both. Not quite sure what voice I was going for there, but, it is what it is, and now it's out there on the airwaves forever. So, it is what it is. Writing things down and scheduling it definitely helps get things done. Most of the time, I completely agree with you. The problem that I run into a lot is that I run into the issue with executive dysfunction, and then basically I end up trying to prioritize too many things at the exact same time, and then my brain ends up over prioritizing everything and nothing gets done. But also, in the meanwhile, for this one in particular, it was more just other projects just started taking priority. And then, eventually when something sits in the corner collecting dust, it gets kind of forgotten about. If I had Solo's plethora of goodies, I'd probably play set building all day. Yeah. I wouldn't blame you there. Although it's funny, so one of the things that I do have that I'm thinking about doing an eventual stream for. My buddy, because he's seen that I've been doing all these painting streams recently, has been saying, well, you know, if you don't have any minis to paint, maybe you can, you know, do me a favor. So he gave me this thing and said, here, paint this for me. So this will eventually be a thing. I've never done a building before, and I swear, I'm breaking my every rule doing this because criminy. I never thought I was gonna paint minis, and yet I have now done 4 mini painting streams. I never thought that I was gonna, you know, paint a building, but I guess I'm painting a building now. So, we'll see how that goes. I'm gonna have to imagine that there's enough in there that's probably gonna have to spread out over multiple days for the parts, but then again, that's always the hard thing if you're gonna play that game, because especially if you want matching colors, trying to do matching colors over multiple days. Woof. Maybe I just have to do it in pieces. Maybe it's just like, you know, all right, today I'm doing the base coat on everything. Great. All right, today I'm doing windows on everything. Reach out to Tristan, he's got great tips. Yeah, you know, that's a good point. He probably would be the person to reach out about that sort of thing. Especially after those beautiful sets he did for Realm Season 1. Speaking of which, Solo, if you are there, I don't know if you're still there right now, but if you happen to be there, I'm curious. Are you going to be doing any quests and answers at some point in the future about set building? If you're allowed to say. If you're not, you know, you don't have to, but if you haven't already figured that out, that would probably be a good topic to cover. Terrain? 100% for sure. All right. You can bet I will be listening closely to that one. That's actually next Monday. So how funny. It's like I read minds or something. Very nice. Oh yeah, that'll be a fun one. So wait a minute. Are we having a quest and answers next Monday, but we're not having a show after that? Okay. Ah, now I'm confused. Just a solo quest and answers. Got it. It's gonna be weird not having anything on Monday. All right, 4 down and 7 more to go. 7? Huh. Somehow I wound up with 11 arrows. I'm not quite sure how that happened. Usually I do this in a dozen, but you know. I want to DM a one-shot? You know, I've been on the fence about it for a little while now because I have never DM'd before, but there's a little part of me that's always been curious to try it. Oh, thank you, Diane. Yeah, that's a fair point, Solo. I am definitely talking to someone who has a ton of experience with exactly that. Much obliged, good sir. Well, who knows? Maybe, you know, over the course of maybe over the course of this week, I'd be maybe I might work up the nerve to be able to say, you know what, sure, screw it, I'm gonna do it. But might need another couple of days to work up that level of nerve. Think he'd be like Liam DMing? I'm nervous every show, man. Doesn't go away. Oh yeah, no, for sure. I mean, hell, you know, I have a theater background. I'm, you know, before any of this, I was an actor, and you know, the whole thing of like, you know, oh, you don't get nervous, you know, before a show. Nope, happens every single time. I'm totally calm and fine during the actual show itself, but before it, it's always like. Nervous even for my home games. You gotta home that. What am I waiting for? Honestly, I don't know. I don't know. I guess that, you know, that really is just one of those things. I just have to rip off the band-aid and do it, right? I can't wait for it. You know what? Like I said, give me a day or two to ponder that one over in my brain. Especially double check the calendar and make sure that it's something that I could actually feasibly do, but, you know, I'll consider it. I'll consider it. No, tape sticking to fingers! You know, it's kind of funny. You wouldn't think that the arrow making process would be as sticky as it is. I think the biggest issue that I run into with the notion of DMing is that I think I get into my own head too much. Which I'm sure that a lot of that is just a novice thing from not having done it. I have seen the sorts of chaos that players can ensue, especially having been one of those players. Hell, that's kind of become my MO in Cantor. How many ways can I break the DM? Art's honestly become one of my favorite new characters. Which is so funny because, like, when I initially came up with him, he started out as basically a joke of an idea. And then he just sort of, evolved into what you see now. Art's fun, crafty, and funny. I'm sure that y'all have probably heard me talk about this before, but it still bears repeating. I'm usually very terrible at note taking. I try to be good about, writing stuff down and everything just because, obviously that's what a good player should do. It helps you remember things. And, of course, if you have all these names and places, whatever, and stuff like that, it's good to have it down just because it's nice to be able to reference it later when, there's months between campaigns or months since you last interacted with this player and such like that. But with art, I have to be so meticulous with all of my note taking because I swear to God, I need to be able to justify every single thing that I do. So I have lists of all the things that I pick up and collect over time, and I'm meticulously marking down, what I've used, what I haven't used, what's been turned into what, who's in possession of what, so that I can just keep track of it all. Like, I even have to go so far as to remember who I give things to. Just because if I don't, all my plans get foiled. It's always kind of this interesting thing where, I do actually do a lot of pre-planning for a lot of the stuff that I intend on having him create, but every now and then I get spontaneous and I just kind of make something up on the spot. But definitely a lot of the ideas that I do come up with, I have to have at least some sort of pre-planning, although occasionally I might change it up just a little bit at the last second. Like when I made that, the healing ray that I was, the healing scream, that concept I did come up with prior to the stream itself. However, little things like, using the shells or doing my duck signature stamp and stuff like that were things that I, thought up on the spot and did no pre-planning on. I have a notebook for each campaign with dividers for each for organizing. You see, I hit this weird sort of thing because there are some areas where I am incredibly meticulous and incredibly detail oriented and incredibly organized. But when it comes to note taking, I'm terrible because a lot of times, like, I process the information faster than I can write it down. And so by the time it gets to writing it, it's like, I don't know what I should write, and then by the time that happens, we've already moved on to the next thing. So it's kind of interesting is that, working with art has kind of forced me into a position where I have to kind of get myself out of that brain and, actually take notes on everything. I really wish we lived closer to one other Diane, my kind of gal. Yep. You two were sisters right from the get-go. It's amazing. And see, that's one of the things that I have just absolutely loved about Fable 42. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's going to sound like I'm just, spilling another Kool-Aid thing or whatever and stuff like that. But honestly, this is an amazing community. And I love the people that I've been meeting through this community. Some incredible folks that I would have never met otherwise. Even if, honestly, most of you I haven't even met in person, but even so, I still feel like, we've hung out all the time. Yeah, true story, Solo. See, exactly. I don't think that, actually, yeah, there is not a single person in the Fabled 42 family that I have met in person. I have a purely online relationship with all y'all, but still, I still feel like, I've known all y'all forever. Fully consumed the Fable 42 Kool-Aid. Hey, you know what? Nothing wrong with that. Welcome to the madness. Because all y'all are what make Fable 42 and what make it amazing. Didn't know how much I needed this in my life until it happened. True story. Exactly the same thing for me. If you had told me a year ago that I was going to be spending a majority of my time both, playing and facilitating D&D, I would have said, "You're mad. No way. Wouldn't happen." And yet here we are. Solo has that silver tongue, duped you all. But it wasn't even just you, man. I mean, yeah, you helped facilitate it, but I mean, it's just... This community has just drawn so many amazing folks with so many interesting backgrounds and interesting stories to tell, and frankly, if nothing else, that's one of the things that always draws me in. I love good stories, and y'all are full of them. I think that's officially one of my favorite aspects of D&D is just the ability to tell a story. Because I think that's, for me, that's what I am at heart. I'm a storyteller. And with that in mind, I also love just hearing other stories. Because, at the end of the day, that's what we all are. We are the stories we tell. Everyone is welcoming, and it has been amazing to watch it grow. And frankly, if nothing else, the craziest thing above all is that 100% it has been the most positive Dungeons & Dragons experience I have ever had. Because like I said before, doing a campaign, maybe once, maybe twice a month at my most frequent. And eventually it would taper off. And the players weren't, always interested or engaged or interesting, and, things just didn't quite work out because of, bad, people got impatient or people didn't know the mechanics, or it's just, people lost interest. I didn't have any of that here. This was all just, amazing right from the get-go. Where does that happen? That doesn't happen. So, as such, I got suckered in real quick. Oh, and Diane and April, I am super excited to see both of y'all's campaigns going. Very excited to get some more DMs in. Got like this groovy, like space EDM or something like that going on here. No, for sure. Fallout is an RPG. That's awesome. And Shaogal, Diane, I don't know how that happened, but somehow you wound up getting like a perfect cast. Like, how is that a thing? That's awesome. You got so many amazing folks with some incredible characters. I'm very excited to see grow and develop as the story goes. Yeah, you got an amazing set of PCs. Oh yeah. Are you in April's campaign? I forget, April, who your players are. Oh, you are. Awesome. I mean, given our previous conversations about how y'all are sworn sisters at this point, I shouldn't be surprised. Yeah, definitely has a great RP group. Well, plus, just some really both hilarious and well thought out characters. Like, all of them interesting in their own right. It's gonna be great. Alicia, Udahami, Jordan, and Justin. Justin. Do I know Justin? Have I seen Justin yet? Can't wait for that trash pasta. Oh, Liz is amazing. And Daffodil is freaking adorable. Yeah, Liz is amazing. I believe. Oh yeah, she's actually in my my group for Mythical Melee. So she's the other, person that I'm not sure about. I've seen Daffodil, I haven't seen any of the other characters, so I'm not quite sure what to expect. Justin is my IRL friend, he's my DM on Tuesdays and a player on my game on Thursdays. Awesome, okay, so he's an IRL person. And he's the one keeping y'all busy on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Although you DM the Thursday game, right? Oh, it's Tuesday, April DMs. Got it. Oh no, you DM Thursdays, he DMs. Got it. Excuse me while my brain catches up with my mouth. So much D&D. So much D&D. Oh, I mean, man, come November, we're gonna have a full roster. It's only gonna keep on getting crazier from there. There's not going to be enough hours in the day to consume all the D&D content we're going to be making. Level 15 player on Tuesday and DMing level 10 players. Oh my, that's got to be a transition. Gonna have to start having the kiddos help with crafting props for the show. Yeah, there you go. Don't answer if you don't want to share private information or anything, but I don't recall, like, what's their age range? Are they like toddler, or are they old enough to be able to start helping with crafts and such like that? I feel like you might have told me at some point, but I don't quite recall. Okay. So old enough to be able to help then. At least the older ones. The 3-year-old maybe not. 3-year-old might be able to help with backdrops. There you go. I mean, I imagine, you know, you put a thing of paint in front of a 3-year-old, they'll figure out a way to give you a backdrop. You might not have any paint left by the time you're done, but, you know, it'll certainly be interesting. Did you all love painting minis? Aw, starting them young. Ugh, you're already giving him the addiction. I managed to go 32 years before succumbing to my painting addiction. So much paint. It's funny, I feel like with my current paint supply, it's almost kind of the bread and wine dilemma. You know, you run out of bread, but you still have wine, that means you need more bread. If you run out of wine, but you still have bread, that means you need more wine. And so it works with paints. I have all this paint, but nothing to paint. I guess I need more minis. Oh, I have all these minis, but no paint. I guess I need more paint. Not that that's ever going to happen anytime soon, but I feel like this paint supply is going to last me for a while. And butter. Man, do I need to start figuring out how to have art paint with butter? Do we start making butter paint? He's already figured out dye. Butter paint's not a stretch. So I guess at that point it wouldn't be an acrylic, it would be an oil-based paint. And you see, this is one of the things I love about art, is that I can even have these conversations. It used to be bad enough when they wanted to paint shoes like mommy and trays like daddy, but now it's all the minis and their toys they really want to paint. Oh dear, and I'm assuming they want to paint even the things that already have paint on them. Yup. Yeah, the thing that I do understand about kids is that you want to be careful with the hobbies you introduce them to because they may go hog wild with it. You can get those bulk minis from Amazon for them to paint. Oh, for sure. And I mean, I imagine if you do end up tasking them with something that's like, you know, a single color, like here, paint all these rocks. You know, they'd probably be able to handle that. Yeah, we got a bunch of How to Train Your Dragons, buckets of mini dragons and such. Oh, that's adorable. Are they big How to Train Your Dragon fans? Gave my littles all the unpainted ones I don't want or have time to paint. That's cute. That sounds like a really good idea. As long as they're, I mean, as long as they're at the old enough age that, you know, swallowing's not going to be a problem. Dad, what about that really cool one you have? No, that's for Daddy. Yep, yep. Daddy needs to be able to paint his dollies too. Yeah, I want to paint the big dragon's mommy. Oh god. No, not until you learn how to shade and highlight. I'm sorry, no children. If you're gonna want to paint the dragon, you gotta get good first. Oh man, it's already almost 2:30. This has been a longer process than I was anticipating. I must be out of practice. Normally I'd be far further along than this. Get some food after this. What do I want to eat? Of course, now I had to say the word food, and now I got food on the brain. That totally did make me sound dickish. No, it's funny. I actually had a musical theater teacher back in high school whose catchphrase that she most frequently used whenever she was giving us direction on any of the scenes we did or the choreography we did and stuff like that. I was like, yep, all right, yep, that's doing great. You know, you guys are really coming along well. Now suck less. Motivational speech. Gotta fuel up for tonight's spider bait. Ah, so rude. The irony, I spend all this time plotting how to eat that goose, and in the end, I'm the one who gets eaten. Your teacher could have been a bard. Yep, no, I'd believe it. I mean, musical theater teacher, so I feel like that kind of goes hand in hand there. I was about to say, I mean, I find it hard to imagine a musically inclined barbarian, but I think that was actually something Tristan was originally planning on building at one point, was doing a, what was it, a bardbarian? Which does sound kind of amazing. The goose willed your fate, think better of your tummy's choices next time. Hey, be thankful that, you know, Nafako currently thinks that the goose is her divine patron. Which, by the way, you're pronouncing it wrong. It's pronounced crane. Right? Oh my god, there were so many good moments with that. And I mean, like, it started out as just one little bit, and then it just kept on growing, and then it kept on growing, it kept on turning into this huge thing, and then eventually Chris with the honk. So good. There is a little part of me that's still curious why a goose, but I'm sure that question will be answered eventually. Oh, I'm sure. I believe you that there's a reason. I'm just, you know, scratching my brain trying to figure out what that might be. Alright, we're almost there, folks. Just 2 more arrows after this. Gotta hit the road, keep up those fletchings. Sounds good, friend. Thank you so much for hanging out and sticking around. I know we'll be seeing more of you later tonight. Cherry Coke! Ooh, are we on a soda run? God, I haven't had soda in so long. That's not entirely true. I think I had a Mexican Coke like a week ago, or 2 weeks ago or something like that, which is the first soda I have had in months. It's funny, when I was younger, I used to drink this stuff every day. Get you in the chat. Maybe sooner than later, if the dice go against you, I'll be sending some luck for sure. Thank you so much. Much appreciated, buddy. You take care. Mexican Coke. Yeah, I'm pretty much almost completely off soda these days. I very rarely drink it at all, but if I do, it's definitely a Mexican Coke for sure. Especially anytime I have tacos or burritos, it makes it very hard to resist temptation. Because it's etched into my brain that, oh, when you have tacos or a burrito, you have Coke. But I still try to keep it only as like a special treat now and then. Yeah. Or Mexican beer. Like, which ones in particular are you referring to? Oh yeah, speaking of which, you know, don't think I've forgotten from earlier. Although I haven't checked the Fable 42 chat, so I haven't had a chance to check it later, but you mentioned food, and apparently that you cook for your home games and such like that. I think Pixar it didn't happen. Modelo Negro Dos Equis, or yeah, got it. The yeah, I haven't really had Dos Equis very often, but definitely if I'm gonna have a Modelo, it's usually gonna be the Negro. My wife turned me on to that. Alright folks, we're at the tail end of this here. I'm trying to remember, April, were you the one who doesn't like IPAs, or was that Diane who doesn't like IPAs? Mexican beer chili? Ooh. Sounds really good. I've used beer in cooking before, but I haven't done it for chili. I'll have to try that sometime. Unfortunately, since Corona hit, we haven't hosted in person like we used to. Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, that's, you see, and that's also the tough thing for me, because when I cook for other people. So it's harder when you just, although then again, at least I mean, I do have 2 roommates that I live with, so at the very least, you know, makes it a little bit easier, so I still have, you know, folks that I can cook for when I do cook. I always feel weird cooking for myself. Not a fan of the IPA? Oh, that's fair. My wife is a huge fan of IPAs, and I enjoy them a lot too. They're not the only beer that I like, but definitely enjoy them. I'm playing on Roll20 and Tabletop Simulator, miss cooking. Oh, that's a shame. But at least y'all have been able to keep it going. I mean, that's been kind of the amazing thing about, you know, this explosion of online D&D is that, you know, in spite of the fact that we're all forced to isolate, you know, there's still this interesting sense of connectiveness. And folks are still playing. I'm curious how well D&D works on Tabletop Simulator. I mean, I imagine there's no reason it wouldn't. Done a bunch of other games on it before. It looks great, but it crashes so much. Oh, that's a shame. Yeah, I kind of figured that would be the case. Tabletop Simulator does a lot of things really well, but it feels like sometimes their infrastructure isn't too good in terms of servers. Got on there a little crooked. That's okay. Prefer Roll20, yeah. I can see that. That seems to be kind of the standard these days for a lot of places. I mean, up until Vorpal Board, they seem to be, you know, pretty much almost the only option. At least for the full-fledged experience. Can't wait to use Vorpal though as a DM. Oh yeah, for sure. Vorpal is kind of something else, isn't it? All right. Come on. Come on. Come on. There we go. All right. One more. You know, I wasn't sure about the carbon gray, but it actually seems like it's working with this fletching really nicely. My glue got a little over glued here. I'll have to do a little sanding and clean that up a little bit. That's fine. All right. Let's get our last few pieces of fletching out. good. It's being a little more stubborn. There we go. Need to DM a pirate one-shot? Oof. As epic as that would be, that's a lot of work. Those ship mechanics and all that. Could be interesting. Of course, I guess I don't have to go crazy with ship mechanics and all that. Actually, honestly, there's a little part of me that wants to, I don't think I'd be ready for it because I would have to learn a whole bunch of mechanics and stuff that I don't know that I'd be ready for, but I really am curious about the Last of the Lacers, which is a D&D 5e adaptation of Bending from Avatar: The Last Airbender. Simple ship, one sail, one cannon, one wheel. Maybe a hull. There you go. Yeah, see, and it would be really cool. I'd be really excited about it, but oh my god, I feel like my brain would melt just trying to learn the rules for that. And, you know, even for my players, I imagine it would be a lot for them as well. And especially for my first one-shot, I'd rather not have it be something where all of our brains are melting. But I would be really excited to give that a whirl if I at least had, you know, a trial run under my belt first. Because I'd want to do that one justice. I mean, I guess I do have a month to prep. More than likely, I'm just in my own head again. By the way, hi Thomas, welcome, welcome. You came just as I was finishing the last arrow here. If you get an experienced DM in your party, they could just help you with what is that check, what's that roll. That's true. And that's certainly something I would not be against. We definitely have some really solid DMs in our community who are good at that sort of thing, where they can be, you know, helpful without being judgmental. A midday stream is like weird for me to catch. No, for sure, man. That's this was kind of a one-off thing. It was like a, hey, you know what? I got arrows to make, and I'm trying to make up for lost time since I had to miss a bunch of streams last week, so let's just do a random daytime stream, because why not? But glad you were able to pop in for a minute. Alright. And there we are. So with that, that right there is a bundle of arrows. Yeah, I know. I know, April. I hate when people are rule jerks too. It's just like, you know, dude, have you seen the DM guide? Yeah, it's... I feel like for me, like, I feel like the rules are there for a reason. They're definitely there for guidelines more than hard set, except for maybe under certain circumstances. And I think as long as you're still telling a good story and everyone is having fun, that's the most important part. I definitely think that having the players have an opportunity to have a really cool moment and being able to tell a really good story is going to be far more important than, well, technically that only lasts for, 10 seconds. And it has to be done, with, a piece of a scarf from 10 years ago and a blue crystal. It's like, I think that there are some elements of it where it's like, the flavor's good. It's nice to be able to make sure that you're specific on some things. But overall, the important thing is to have fun and to tell a story. It's like, why would you need to be a rules lawyer? Thomas has exciting news. What's exciting news? Oh my goodness. That is quite a link there. Well, I'm not quite sure what that led to. As it seems like it's to a preview that is not showing anything. Well, I'll have to check in with you about that a little bit later, because I am excited to hear what the exciting news is. Oh, it doesn't show? Yeah, it's not showing up, whatever it is that you linked here. Maybe if you want to link it in Discord, or if you want to message me privately, maybe we can take a look and see what that is. I am excited to hear what you've got going on. I'd love to see it. But alas, it doesn't seem like it wants to play nice at the moment. But in the meanwhile, we're going to go ahead and bring things to a close for here. We have a full bundle of arrows. I'm excited to get these out to the range and give them a whirl at some point soon. Thank you all for sticking around and having a low-key afternoon with me and watching me stumble through doing something that I haven't done in 8 months. So fun times. I hope you learned something. I hope you had some fun, and I'm definitely going to be trying to do more stuff like this in the future. I do have a lot of fun little projects and stuff that I work on here and there, and it's, it's kind of nice to be able to share that with some other folks. And if you liked what you saw today, please be sure to hit that follow button. Definitely got more stuff like this coming up, as well as, of course, the good old video game content. And for those of you who are in Fable 42, which I think are most of you who are here at the moment, but on the off chance there is someone who isn't, be sure you tune in tonight on Fable 42 for the next episode of the Realms of Ukador. My character Eclipse is currently being possessed by face spiders and is paralyzed and is in a hole. I might die. We'll see what happens. In either case, definitely check that out, and also stay tuned for some other shows coming up later this week, both here and on that channel. Thanks for hanging out with me. Thanks for having a low-key afternoon, and thank you for letting me be your discount bard. I'll catch y'all next time. Do we have anyone? Nope. Yep. We'll catch y'all next time.